Alright guys, with all the talk about the Nintendo Wii U coming out, which I do plan to pick up and do some videos on, I thought I'd do another video game review today. And I was just looking through my collection and I found SNK Arcade Classics Volume 1. This is a great game to have in your collection because I just love these games where you get a whole bunch of games for the price of one. I have all the Midway Arcade Treasures games for the Nintendo GameCube. I think it's 1, 2, and then 3, which is a bunch of racing games. But I really love those. The classic arcade collections with like Galaga, Pac-Man, those are great to have. The Zelda collectors, it's like Zelda 1, 2, Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, and the Master Quest. That's also a great collection to have. It sucks as a Nintendo owner because the Sega collections are awesome, and so are the Capcom collections for the PlayStation 2, but we never got any of those, and that still bothers me to this day that we did not get the Capcom Classics. The Sega one I can do without, but the Capcom one with Final Fight, Final Fight 2, all those awesome games I really wanted. So yeah, I was disappointed with that, but this is a good collection too. A lot of the games are subpar, but it's still 16 games. And it's like, I think these are just the Neo-Geo games, but I can't remember how much I paid for this. I think it was like $20, and they were supposed to do like a Volume 0 or something after this that never came out. So it's Volume 1, and it's going to stay Volume 1. But they did come out with like a Metal Slug collection, I think Samurai Showdown, King of Fighters. There's been a few more, but nothing that's just like a bunch of different games, and this has a lot of variety to it. So it has all the games on the back here. I'm just going to go through and give my thoughts on each one. World Heroes was kind of actually you have to unlock World Heroes. This game has this achievement system where you can play through, and some of them are really easy to collect. You can collect these medals for getting like a high score or just beating a game. And I think that's really fun because that's something else the Wii was lacking. It didn't have achievements, which I do enjoy. You know, with the Xbox, PlayStation 3, you have achievements, but you don't get that on the Nintendo Wii. So I thought it was cool that this game added kind of like a little medal system where you can unlock these medals. And once you get enough, you get World Heroes. And it's like a fighting game, but with characters from all over the world, like Rasputin's in it. And he uses these like giant yellow hands and feet. He's got magic powers. There's one guy who's like a robot. And it's a fun little fighting game, but why it's unique is because it has this deathmatch option where you can fight and you'll be in a ring with electrified ropes or these spikes on the walls that you can knock your opponent into, or fire, all types of different stuff. So I always thought the game was unique because of the deathmatch feel. But it's more of a Street Fighter type game, except much worse. But it's one of the better fighting games on this collection. Top Hunter, I think that's, there was this weird game where you play as like this character and you slam these giant metal fists out. And you fight enemies, and you can jump in the background, and jump in the foreground, and you can go back and forth to collect items and stuff. And it was a decent game. A lot of these are arcade games, so it moves at a really quick pace. They're not like really long games or anything. And another thing about this collection is it's very easy because you get unlimited continues. It's like if you were at the arcade and you had an infinite amount of quarters. So there's really no way to die as long as you just keep at it. King of Fighters 94. It's a decent fighting game. I never really got into King of Fighters. It's enjoyable for what it is, but I always thought Street Fighter was just much better, and it really made it hard for me to get into the King of Fighters. I also have the Capcom vs. SNK, I believe it is, for the Nintendo GameCube, and it's just something I couldn't get into. I loved Capcom vs. Marvel, and of course, I mean, that game is great, but when you add SNK characters, it just didn't really do anything for me. The Next Glory. That's just I don't even know if that's what it's supposed to be called. Super Sidekicks 3. It's a soccer game. There's a bunch of sports games on here. Shock Troopers. It's kind of like a top-down Contra. You just go through and shoot a bunch of stuff. But it's fun, and I think there's different characters you can choose. They all have different stories. It is one of the better games on here. Sengoku is this batshit insane Japanese fighting game. It's like a beat 'em up. It's just crazy. The story is completely out there. And I don't even know if it's 2-player. I think it's 2 players. And you get these gems and you can turn into like different things and get these power-ups. But you're fighting like these sumo wrestlers and all this like ancient stuff. Just all this old Japanese culture stuff is thrown into this game. And it is crazy, but it's really fun. And I've spent a lot of time playing that one. Samurai Showdown is a great game. It's one of my favorite games in the fighting genre. I had this game for Super Nintendo. I think they took the blood out for Super Nintendo though. But I remember playing it in the arcade all the time on those old Neo-Geo arcade machines that would have like 10 games. And you could just play like multiple... World Heroes was also on it. And I remember in the arcade you play Samurai Showdown, you could cut the opponent in half. There'd be blood and stuff. I think they took it out for this Super Nintendo version, but here we get the arcade version, and it's still just as fun as ever. It has an awesome, cast of characters you can play as. The guy with the claw, the little green guy, the big guy with the chain and the hook on the end of it. Earthquake, I think his name is. And just a ton of awesome characters in Samurai Showdown. I would actually like to get that collection because I really did enjoy those games. Sadly, Part 5, the one where they added fatalities, I think it's Part 5, for some reason isn't on the collection, or it's not the special edition. There was like Samurai Showdown 5 and then Director's Cut or something version that had fatalities. And the collection doesn't have the fatality version, which was really disappointing to me. Neo Turf Masters. I think that's just a golf game. It's alright. Let's see where I'm at here. Metal Slug is an awesome series of games. I think there's 10 of them now, maybe even 11. But this is Metal Slug 1. And without the unlimited continues, this game is damn hard. I mean, it's really, really intense. Towards the end, there's stuff coming at you from every direction, but it's really like Contra. You can jump into vehicles and stuff like that. It's really fun. Magician's Lord. This game here, oh my god. It's a cool concept. You go through and you can collect these gems just like Sengoku, and you can turn into dragons, ninjas. I don't know. I can't remember the other. There's like all types of lizards, and you kind of fight through these worlds where you can collect gold and stuff. And it reminded me a little bit of Gauntlet Legends. But the thing about this game, you have to be careful because it'll start you off where you die. So if you're falling into a pit, you got to make sure you can land. Something like that. I can't remember. There was this platform in the last level, and the game, even with the infinite continues, if you die over a pit, you'll start back. And it is really hard because I was trying to unlock one of the medals, and it's beat the game on the hardest difficulty or something like that. So I kept trying, and I got to this platform, and you die in one hit. So you have to be very precise when you're making these jumps because you're also dodging enemies. And it took me forever to get over this thing. And you can't rely on the infinite continues because you still have to make the platform, so it's all about skill at that point. But it's a decent game to play through because it is kind of short. But yeah, there's not much to that one. Last Resort is a shoot-'em-up game that is incredibly hard. Even with infinite continues, on the easiest difficulty, it's just crazy, crazy hard. It's kind of like R-Type, but really, really tough and not nearly as fun. King of the Monsters, never really cared much for this. I think I had one of these games on Super Nintendo, something Monsters, but you can play as like this giant superhero looking guy, Godzilla characters, King Kong characters, and you just fight each other over the cities. You can throw buildings, but every character pretty much has the same moves, and you have super moves, but they're so predictable that you can tell when the opponent's going to do it, so you can never hit anyone with it. And it's just not a really fun game. I only played it for the medals. Alright, I'm going to skip ahead here to Baseball Stars 2. It's an alright baseball game, I guess. Burning Fight is a crazy beat-em-up game where you fight characters. It's so early 90s, 80s, where you fight, there's one boss who looks like Hulk Hogan. And you can do this running move where you just do a clothesline. And I think it may be kind of like Final Fight where there's Andre the Giant looking enemies too. But yeah, this game is so boring. I mean, it's fun for like the first 2 levels. After that, you're just doing the same thing over and over again. And once again, because you have unlimited continues, you can do the... You know how in all those beat-em-up games you can press the buttons together and you'll do like a big sweep that kills everybody, but it takes your health? Well, eventually you just want this game to end so that you can get the medal, and you're just constantly doing that. So you're killing yourself, unlimited continues, and you start right there again, and you just keep doing the sweep attack just to end the game. There's a few weapons, but it's not enough to make this game worthwhile. Art of Fighting. I had that game for Super Nintendo, and it sucked. It's really, really hard to do the moves. I have no idea why, but you're trying to do it, and it's like Street Fighter. You do a Hadouken, it's easy. It goes off without a hitch. You can do the, the Dragon Punch, that little move with the kicks. All of that's really easy to do in Street Fighter. In this game, it's like impossible to do a Hadouken. No matter how many times you try, it's very rare you can pull one off. And it's not even a fighting game. It's like a story mode game where you're trying to get your sister, your girlfriend back or something. And you run into a boss. And then you beat him and he says, okay, you got to go here and fight this guy for information. So you go there and you fight that guy. And it's really a tough game. But it's just not fun enough to make you want to keep going. I was really disappointed with that because I also had Fatal Fury for the Super Nintendo, and I enjoyed that to an extent. And I thought Art of Fighting, another game like Fatal Fury, I would give it a shot, but oh man, did I regret that one. And that brings me to the last game, Fatal Fury. It's a lot harder than I remember. And you can play as Joe, Andy, or Terry Bogard. And you have the typical characters for Fatal Fury. You got the big wrestler, luchador guy who can spit this mist. The little old man who, in the second round, he hawks up and he gets all these muscles. I can't remember the other characters. I think there was like a break dancer guy. But it's a fun series, and you can also jump into the background, back and forth. But it's a straight up fighting game. The thing that always sticks out in my mind is fighting the little old man, though. He was always a really tough fight. And in this game, you kind of just have to get lucky and hope you get him in one of the first rounds. Because if you got to fight him towards the end of the game, you're in trouble. Because the enemies get harder and harder as you progress in the rounds. So someone who's easy in the first round, if you play the game again and you fight them later on, they're going to be really tough. And then you have Geese as the boss. And I always liked him as a character. I thought he was a great villain. But overall, Fatal Fury is a fun game. And that's really it. That's SNK Arcade Classics Volume 1. That's every game in the collection, I believe. Some of my personal favorites: Fatal Fury, Metal Slug, Samurai Showdown, Shock Troopers, Sengoku, and what the hell, Magician Lord. I'm going to throw that one out there too. So, it is a good collection of games, but most people bought this because of the King of Fighters, Samurai Showdown, the name games. But you still get some good variety. You get the sports games, the shoot 'em ups, the beat 'em ups. So this is a great collection to have, and I'm pretty sure I got it for like $20 or so, relatively new. I did buy it new, but it was around the time it had just come out. So I'm sure you could find this for like $10 new now. So definitely worth picking up. There's a little picture of the inside. And that's it. So that is my review of SNK Arcade Classics. Hope you guys liked this video. Leave your thoughts on this game in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Bye. Alright guys, with all the talk about the Nintendo Wii U coming out, which I do plan to pick up and do some videos on, I thought I'd do another video game review today, and I was just looking through my collection and I found SNK Arcade Classics Volume 1. This is a great game to have in your collection because I got any of those, and that still bothers me to this day that we did not get the Capcom Classics. The Sega one I can do without, but the Capcom one with Final Fight, Final Fight 2, all those awesome games I really wanted. So yeah, I was disappointed with that, but this is a good collection too. I just love these games where you get a whole bunch of games for the price of one. I have all the Midway Arcade Treasures games for the Nintendo GameCube. I think it's 1, 2, and then 3, which is a bunch of racing games. But I really love those. The classic arcade collections with like Galaga, Pac-Man, those are great to have. The Zelda collectors, it's like Zelda 1, 2, Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, and the Master Quest. That's also a great collection to have. It sucks as a Nintendo owner because the Sega collections are awesome, and so are the Capcom collections for the PlayStation 2, but we never... A lot of the games are subpar, but it's still 16 games. And it's like, I think these are just the Neo-Geo games, but I can't remember how much I paid for this. I think it was like $20, and they were supposed to do like a Volume 0 or something after this that never came out. So it's Volume 1, and it's going to stay Volume 1.